Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This whole saga was collected by Dimity Blue, all 3 parts. Welcome to Trish Loves Dolphins' Tale About Sam, originally posted to r/JustKnowMother-in-law once upon a time, specifically all the way back in the distant year of September 13th, 2016. The saga starts off with a single post. Mother-in-law in the wild and her flying monkey, or why you shouldn't work on sympathy from a stranger. Oldest gets out of school at 4. There's a park literally right next door, so I've been taking my 3-year-old to the park until school gets out. Might as well play for 30 minutes instead of waiting in the car. We've been seeing the same 2 girls there with their grandparents and, what I thought was dad, but turned out it was an uncle. Man, cute girls, just turned 2 years old. While waiting for the fountain, I started talking to one of the little girls, and Grandma tells me just how much she loves her babies, and that if it weren't for their uncle, she would never get to see them. Apparently, Grandma and Grandpa were thrown out of their daughter's house for no reason, and told that until they could behave themselves, they weren't allowed to see the kids. I guess they were only taking them to the mall and only left them in the car for a few minutes, and they do it all the time, so it's no big deal. Well, I guess someone blew it out of proportion and called the cops. CPS was called, and the end result was no contact. I'm not sure what all happened, but what I heard from Grandma was bad enough that I wasn't surprised that Mom told them no contact, and I'm sure Grandma cleaned it up to try and make herself smell like roses. Uncle apparently thinks this is unfair, so he picks up the girls while his sister picks up her other child from school. She waits in the pickup line while her brother plays with the girls at the park and then picks all 3 back up. Grandma was so proud that they hadn't been caught because they parked the car at the recycling plant that's at the back of the park and wait for the uncle to call. Then, they know that school is out at 4, so they leave at 4 so that Mom doesn't find out. They apparently do this anytime Uncle is babysitting, so they can see the kids. Now, I'm pretty active at the school. I know most of the parents by sight. I don't recognize the girls, but I did ask a grade/name for the boy in school. He was in my son's class last year. I know Mom. Not besties, but we do the mom chat thing. Next time I see Mom in the pickup line, I'm going to tell her she should do a lap around the park and swing around through the area with the recycling spot after she drops her brother off before she goes through pickup at the school. First update. Update to mother-in-law and her flying monkey in the wild, aka Hell Hath No Fury. I actually ran into Mom. I'm gonna call her Sam, cause Sam Jackson is the coolest motherfucker I know, and I've got a new buddy, at the grocery store about 2 hours ago. So I bumped into Sam at the store, conveniently enough in the wine aisle, LOL. She had the girls with her, so there's no doubt that I was right about who these people were. We made a little chit-chat when we saw each other, and then I told her I was going to try and catch her at school, and told her why. We ended up driving down to Mickey D's for the kids to play while we talked. She was pretty pissed. She asked me if I had taken any pictures, and I hadn't thought about it. But I did take some snaps of Kid 2 playing, and let her look to see if they were in the background. They were in one. They were standing with one of the girls in the background. I texted what I had to her. Now she also has my number. Apparently, Grand Idiot Ma and Grand Idiot Pa got busted for more than just leaving them in the car. They also were busted for taking the kids from the house with no car seats. Not just up the block trip either. They took the kids to the mall. Sam lives about 4 blocks from me. I don't know how we missed each other. I've lived here 2 years and she's been here longer. The mall is 10 minutes away if you take the highway. 15 to 20 if you take the back way, which is a windy road that we won't drive on at night because while it's not a dangerous road, it's certainly not one you want to send a new driver on, and it can be very dangerous at night since it's not lit and winds through the woods, which means deer. Anyway, they never lived with her. They were staying a few nights while something was being done in their home. Sam said there have always been some problems, but she was never concerned about them because she didn't leave the kids alone with them and saw them more as annoying pests since they were staying a few nights and she had a doctor's appointment. She asked them to watch the girls for a couple hours. She figured she'd come back to dirty girls hopped up on sugar but nothing too bad. Instead, she got a phone call from the local police. The idiots went to the mall. It's been in the high 80s, maybe low 90s this week, but before that, we've had a solid summer temp of 110 heat indexes. My power bill had tripled from last summer. That's how hot it's been here. They didn't want to carry the kids inside, so instead of A, not going, B, one staying in the car and the other going inside, or C, just take the kids in, they left them in the car. This happened a few weeks ago, so it was a good 90 to 100 degrees outside. For my European friends, 90 is around 33, 100 is 37, and 110 is 40. No windows down, no car seats, kids weren't even buckled in. Someone apparently saw them leave the kids. They told them to come get them, and were told that they were only going to be a minute. That person called mall security and the cops. They were at the car for about half an hour before grand idiots came back. By then, cops had removed the kids from the car and were waiting because, almost 2-year-olds don't know their phone number. Idiots come out and try to just get in the car and go. I don't know what they thought they were going to do. The kids were in the police car. Cops call Dad, he doesn't answer. Cops call Sam. She answers, and she drops the doctor's appointment and comes to get her kids. Police are rightfully concerned that the girls aren't in car seats. Sam explains that she didn't give permission for the kids to leave the house and never thought they'd leave without seats. I actually vaguely remember this being in the news, but only as a couple-line story the newscaster read, no video. Grand idiots follow Sam home. By this time her husband is home and knows what's gone down. He's already packed up their bags and has them waiting on the porch. Sam drives straight into the garage and closes the door before getting out and asks her brother to take the girls in so they wouldn't see what was going down. Brother lived with Sam while finishing school. Grand idiots by this point are getting the idea they're not coming back in the house, and it starts to get loud. They start by blaming Dad, saying he won't let them in. Then Sam comes and tells them she decided it, and that she wants them out, and tells them they're not allowed to see the kids alone again. Not even not see the kids ever, just not alone. Grand idiots lose their shit. Grand idiot Ma made some comment about how she'll just use your key to come in and see them anytime she wants, and that Sam can't stop them. Grand idiot Pa makes some comment along the lines of, I'm your father, you'll do what I say. You're not too big for me to whoop your ass. That's when she told them they wouldn't be seeing the kids at all now, and to leave before she calls the cops. They don't believe her, so she goes inside for a second. While she's inside, the cop that lives in our neighborhood came home, and when they saw his car, they left. Brothers seemed to be on board mostly, only defending them by saying, they didn't mean any harm, but Sam thought he understood and didn't think he'd sneak them out. Since they left, they've been doing the usual blowing up the phone and email. CPS was called, and obviously they wanted to meet. Sam shows her a house and explains the situation, then tells them that they have already cut contact, at least for the foreseeable future. CPS pretty much gives the all clear, but does tell Sam that allowing unsupervised visits with the grand idiots wouldn't look good for her, should another situation arise. Her parents tried to pick up her son a few days after school started for some planned event. Apparently, they thought that you're not seeing my kid meant you're not seeing my kid except for that thing we agreed to before you went nuts. She had already removed them from the list after the comment about using her key. By the way, they actually ran to the local hardware store and changed the locks that night. I asked. The school called, of course. Sam told them they're not supposed to have access to the kid, and that if they don't leave, call the cops. After that, they showed up at Sam's, pounding on the door. Grand Idiot Pod tried the window. Sam was home and went to the door. She told them that at this point, she's going to file reports and get a restraining order. A lot more hot air gets thrown around and they finally leave. They've contacted an attorney who told her without more proof, there isn't a whole lot he can do for them right now. About 2 weeks ago is when her brother suggested that since the weather was finally getting a little cooler, that instead of taking the girls to wait in the pickup line, that she could just drop them off with him at the park and they could play while they waited on her son to be out of school. So she's assuming it's been going on at least that long. I offered to pick up her son today so that she can catch them in the act, but she's going to have her husband take care of it, and she's going to try to catch them. I told her to make sure she gets pics before she gets out of the car and to have her camera rolling when she's out of the car so that if police are involved, she can have evidence. She's going to give her brother 48 hours to pack all his shit and get out. I told her all about this place, just no mother-in-law, so we'll see if she posts. She said her husband was probably going to be more pissed than she was, and I've never seen this woman break school mom face, and she was pissed. So I guess that's it. I'll keep an eye out this afternoon and see if I see any explosions at the park. I suggested she call the police for backup if she thought they'd get violent. Hell, the school's police officer would probably go with her if she asked. He's helped out at the park other times. Second update. Update on Sam, aka the Eye of the Storm. Saw Sam a drop-off this morning. I saw her walking her kid in. Normally you open the car door and they run out. Today. So I went ahead and walked my son up so we could chat. I asked if she was okay. She didn't give me a lot of dirt, and honestly, I'm not going to pry about it, but here's what she said happened. She caught her brother and parents at the park yesterday. The way the park is set up, there's a long drive that loops all around the park, one way in and out. It's divided into 4 play areas. The recycling plant is at the very back. It shares the drive. She dropped them off and went out like she was coming to school and waited, then drove back through. When she got back around, Grand Idiot Ma was already out, but Grand Idiot Pa was just getting out of the car. No big drama. She just went and took the kids. Told her brother he had 2 days to get your shit and put her kids in the car. She left him there. Figured their parents could give him a ride. She said they kept trying to talk to her, but she didn't even acknowledge them past, "I've contacted an attorney. All communication can go through her. You'll be hearing from her shortly." They didn't react well, but no violence, and they seemed to at least keep it civil enough that they didn't make a big scene. Between the pic I had and the pictures/videos she got of yesterday, and apparently she got the brother recorded, saying he knew the kids weren't supposed to see Grand Idiots before she dropped them at the park. She's hoping she can lump him into the restraining order as well. There's also a bunch of emails. She didn't tell me what they said, just that they had sent some nasty ones, so she had given them to the attorney. The attorney basically told her that now there's enough evidence that she thinks she can get an emergency order pushed through quickly and then a more permanent one if she wants. Which I assume means the emails must be pretty bad, because emergency protective orders are kind of hard to get around here, at least in a domestic violence situation. I gave her my email and told her that if the attorney wanted a statement or anything from me, since I had been seeing them there a few days, that she could contact me. She said her brother never came home last night, but she started packing, so he can't try and say he didn't have enough time. No clue where he was. He didn't try calling. Her parents texted a few times about him being out in the cold, so she assumes he's with them. Her husband was pretty pissed and has vowed to shoot those assholes. They don't even have a gun, he's just that pissed, if they come back to the house. I guess all of this was just the last straw. They've never been violent or abusive, they just boundary stomp and won't listen to a word they say. Mostly things like giving the kids pop and bottles before they were even off of formula, which is why they didn't leave the kids alone with them usually. Pretty bad stuff, but nothing like the crazy unleashed. She thinks that them staying at her house pushed them/her over the edge because them under her roof trying to make the rules didn't go well. She did talk to the neighborhood cop and asked that if he saw anyone poking around her house to let her know since he lives just down the block. He always brings his cruiser home, so I think it might help as a deterrent seeing a cruiser drive around the neighborhood. I reminded her that she can always come post here. She said she might, but right now she's pretty busy. I told her if nothing else, she should know that she has a fan club already, LOL. She figures it's going to be pretty quiet for a while. She doesn't expect any more shit to go down until they find out she's going through with the attorney. According to her, they don't think she'll do it, and it'll all blow over. Third update. So, update on Sam, aka the Eye has passed. I'm currently sitting in my living room watching Pokemon with my kids. No school today. The girls and Steve. They're eating some Mickey D's and having a good time. About 45 minutes ago, I got a call from Sam that she was really sorry, but could I take her kids? I was at Walmart, but she met me at my door when I got home. Her parents went off the deep end. Not break into the house and steal a wheelchair or shit on a rocker bad. I guess they were served, and that was the, oh shit, she's not going to just let it blow over this time moment. They knew the kids were out of school today, so they sent Sam a message this morning that they were coming, and she could either have the cops there waiting to arrest them, or she could be a grown-up and talk to them. This did not sit well. I guess after a few texts saying that she didn't want them over and she would call the police, they responded that they didn't believe her, and then stopped texting. Sam then was stuck between either being there and confronting them or taking the kids and running, and hoping they weren't there when she got back. She decided to call their bluff. She called the police, but they basically told her that they wouldn't come out until her parents are there, since who knows if they'll follow through. So, not wanting to have a war in front of her kids, she called and asked if they could come over for a few hours. She's about 4 blocks away, can't see the house from here, but you could hear sirens and even yelling if it's quiet enough in the neighborhood. She's planning on calling 911 as soon as the car pulls in. I did give her the mace on my keyring just in case, but she thought it was silly. I asked her if she'd rather feel silly or have a black eye if they went super ass. I would have offered her the gun if it wasn't being serviced. So, that's it. Not much of an update. I imagine I'll have a bigger one later, or a non-existent one if they do show up. Her brother never showed up to move anything. Sam and her husband ended up boxing everything up, which was pretty easy since all the furniture was hers, so it was just personal belongings. They put everything in the garage so they can't be sued or something for getting rid of it. The attorney told them that after a reasonable amount of time, they could get rid of it and not worry about it. 4th update. Second update to Sam, aka some kind of witty title here. Sorry it took so long. I had my own small fires to put out after everyone left. My 3-year-old stabbed himself in that round part of your ear that attaches to your face. Nothing serious. Some water and Neosporin and he was fine. Then the damn dogs broke a cabinet door off, so a trip to the hardware store for wood glue and clamps to fix it was in order. So, they showed up. Sam called the cops. They tried to talk her out of having them arrested. She told them that they were violating the emergency order, court date is sometime next week, and she wanted it enforced and offered to call her attorney to come to her home. Parents tried to say they were there to pick up her brother's stuff. So while the cops were there, she allowed them to load the boxes into their trunk, but told them she wanted to press charges. She figured if she didn't, they'd just think she didn't have the balls to follow through. Cops called the brother, he came and picked up the car, cops took parents, and I'm sure attorney has more to add to the list of permanent/long-term restraining order. Update 5. Sam has no update. Just got back from school's walkathon, yet another fundraiser that I just sent a check for instead of begging every person I do and do not know for money. Insert huge eye roll. Saw Sam, she says she hasn't heard a word from anyone since the incident, so all's quiet on her front. My guess would be as a quick insert that OP was receiving a lot of message requests and comments about if there's an update or not, so OP was just letting them know, yep, no updates. Update 6. Saw Sam, aka you scream, I scream, we all scream, 'cause they're idiots. Last week was Grandparents' Day. My parents went with my boys, and my mom said there seemed to be a little more security than last year, which really amounted to IDs being seen and matched to the child, which happened last year. What was different was that the school's police officer and an additional officer were doing the checking. This is not normal for this event. I didn't think too much of it since there are a lot more stuff being locked down. The new principal is a bit, careful. Saw Sam yesterday at the grocery store, and apparently the reason there was actual security looking at IDs was because the grand idiots decided that since the school was hosting Grandparents' Day, then they were automatically allowed to go. I guess since it's a public school, their argument was they were grandparents and taxpayers, and they have the right. They were wrong. First of all, Grandparents' Day didn't even start till like noon. This way the kids got in, settled in, were able to turn in any work, etc., and have morning recess. Grandparents' Day started just before lunch with a concert, followed by lunch and photos with the kids. Then the grandparents could leave, stay, or leave with the kids. grand idiots were there at freaking 8:45, 30 minutes before school even started. They told the receptionist why they were there and that they were going to take Steve home after the activities. She told them that they needed to come back, but offered to go ahead and check them in so that when they come back, they wouldn't have to wait in line to get their packet. Bunch of flyers about upcoming events, program for the concert, order forms for the new fundraiser. Basically, think of all the random crap kids are sent home with. They fork over IDs, and that's when the receptionist found out who they were and saw the crazy people note on the kid's file. Receptionist tells them they can't be in the building. They argue a bit, but leave with the promise that they'll come back because more rights. Receptionist calls Sam. Sam tells them that the protective order is still active and that under no circumstances are they or her brother allowed around her child. She also makes sure they understand that her in-laws are allowed and are planning on being there, and to make sure they check the IDs because she wouldn't put it past grand idiots to lie. That's when the principal, I assume, decided that the resource officer needed backup and she wanted them to check IDs. Sam didn't know if they came back and were scared off when they saw the IDs being checked, or if they just didn't come back, but she didn't get any calls saying they were back. Sam got some texts from a number that she didn't recognize, assumes it's them. Things like, "Why are you keeping your children away from their loving grandparents? What kind of child has their parents arrested?" If it wasn't grand idiots, it was a flying monkey. What sucks is that it had been radio silent since they showed up at her house. She really thought that it had sunk in, and thought that maybe down the road they'd reconnect. She says she's decided that she's never going to reconnect. After last week, she's afraid that they were going to take her son and do/go God knows what/where. They could have just taken him for a burger and dropped him home. Or they could have taken him and been gone. At this point, she doesn't know what they're capable of. As for the aftermath of them showing up at her house, she said they didn't spend but an hour or two at the police station. They were released. She didn't say how/why they got out so quick. I suspect it had something to do with their age and why they were there. We have a jail capacity problem, so if they weren't considered a high priority, they probably wouldn't keep them long. Her attorney says a permanent protective order is pretty much a slam dunk now, and that she can probably file an attempted kidnapping complaint, but didn't think that would stick long term. But it would be helpful for the file. She isn't going to do that since that would drag the school further into it. The attorney also advised her to ask that the school keep pics of them at the desk, so that if they come in, they're identified right away and won't have a chance to get past the door. 7th update. Saw Sam have an update, aka here comes the judge. Saw Sam today, so hearing is done. The restraining order was granted for a year for her parents. They didn't grant the one for her brother because he basically behaved himself after she kicked him out. She said that she's still not letting him around the kids because she doesn't trust him. Judge apparently read them the riot act. They tried to argue about how they were the parents and had rights, to which the judge told them that their children were grown and that their rights were no longer valid. The mom tried to argue some more, and the judge threatened to hold her in contempt for it. Her mother tried to say they abused the kids. CPS came to their house. Again, they were there not long after the car incident. CPS wrote in their report that everything was fine, and that they highly suspected malicious intent in the report. Judge told her parents that if they were smart, they wouldn't call CPS fraudulently again. They denied it, but the judge wasn't having any of it. Told them that should they end up in front of her again for a fraudulent report, that she'd make sure they were held accountable. Sam took all the texts and emails she's gotten from them over the past couple of months. They denied they sent them. The judge said that there was no proof they sent them, but given what was in the emails and texts, that she had no doubt they were behind it, even if it was asking someone else to send them. Sam asked the judge to tell them under what circumstances the restraining order is invalid, such as holidays and events at school. The judge, of course, said that there were no exceptions to the restraining order and that any contact would be considered a violation, no matter if it happened at the school or at their home. Sam said she could tell how pissed her dad was, but he kept his mouth shut. She also asked the judge make it clear that her brother was to give no messages between to the kids. because she didn't want them to ignore her because the judge didn't say. All in all, rather drama-free. Things have been pretty quiet, but she's still on edge with the holidays. She doesn't put it past them to try and send things to the kids anonymously. She normally hosts her family and her in-laws, and she's not happy about how she's going to have to explain the absence. She said she thought she was going to ask her husband to explain it before. As for the kids, they're adjusting okay. The girls have been asking about Grandma and Grandpa. I guess Steve is adjusting better. He's 7, so he understands more than the twins. So for now, it seems that things are settled. If I hear different, I'll update. Update 8. Sam update, aka ho ho. Mostly, things have been quiet. A few Christmas cards from distant family mentioning the family troubles, but even the FM aren't out in full force. I guess the judge sunk in. Sam said she's gotten a couple of calls from her aunt about Christmas at her house. She kept sort of changing the subject when the guest list would be brought up. Sam was just about to say yes, then asked point blank if her parents were going to be there. The aunt said yes, she was trying to get them talking again. Sam told her that the court issued a ruling that would mean that her parents would have to leave or they'd be arrested, and that aunt had no say in the matter. Aunt didn't like that and told Sam not to bother to come. Aunt told Sam that she didn't want to hear from her until this all got worked out. Sam told her that for her, it is all worked out. Aunt said, "You know what I mean," and they hung up. A few days later, Sam came home to a bunch of presents on her porch. She brought them in and had them on the table, trying to figure out what she wanted to do with them. An hour or so later, she got a text. One of her work friends had dropped them off. Sam wasn't home and is off until Christmas, so she just left them on the porch. So she didn't have to decide whether or not to toss them. I don't know who leaves Christmas packages without labels, but I guess this lady is pretty scatterbrained, so Sam wasn't terribly surprised once she got the text. So, a pretty non-update update. Her kids came to my kid's birthday party, had a blast. She says that even though it's stressful not having her parents in her life, daily, her stress level is a lot better. She hasn't heard anything from her brother. I think that bothers her the most. She had been letting him live with her between college semesters and breaks because he didn't want to have a curfew and other rules her parents had for him when he came home. He's 21, I asked. Sounds like they were pretty close, and then all this shit. We also found out that she and my husband like the same winemakers. I told her about a limited edition that was made that I bought for husband for Christmas. I told her that if she just happened to show up Christmas night, I was sure she could try it. 9th update. Sam says hi, aka, and they all lived happily ever after? Question mark? Knock on wood? Oh god, don't look at the runtime. Saw Sam today. Happily and sadly, everything is quiet. No calls, texts, or emails. 90% of the flying monkeys have had their wings clipped. She hasn't heard from her brother either. She said that she has an aunt that won't let up, but has been quiet since Christmas when Sam asked her what made her think that if she stopped talking to her parents, that she wouldn't stop talking to her too. Kids are doing well. We're actually working on the Valentine's Day party together. Going to make about 100 kiss roses, so we're going to have a wine and chocolate kiss playdate sometime next week. LOL. She says hi, smiley face. 10th update. Saw Sam last week, aka assholes never change their spots. I saw Sam last week. So much for everything being quiet. Well, sort of. No contact at all from the parents, and her brother only randomly texts, so at least day-to-day it's been better. She was served with custody/visitation papers a week or two ago. They're claiming that they lived with her and took care of the kids, therefore deserve visitation. They're trying for every weekend at their house. The thing is, they lived with her for less than a month. Not only that, but they only lived there while they were having some work done to their house that they couldn't be there for. She said her attorney isn't sure how they got an attorney to sign off on the paperwork to represent them, unless they were lying about the amount of time they stayed at Sam's house. They're all fairly sure that there isn't going to be a problem with getting it dismissed because they have no proof that they lived with her. And Sam has emails talking with her mom about the renovations and how they were going to stay with them for a few weeks. I'm betting her mom and dad didn't share those with the attorney. So it'll be fairly easy for her to prove that they didn't live with them and they didn't provide any kind of care for the children, aside from the occasional hour or two of babysitting. The attorney told her that this was probably nothing more than a last-ditch attempt to bully her into letting them have time with her and the kids. Sounds like she hired a real pit bull, as the attorney is suggesting that with all of the documentation from previous problems and such, that she could probably sue them for harassment so they'd have to pay her legal fees. Sam said she's thinking about it but hates the idea based on not wanting to give them more reason to keep messing with her. She told me she'd move if Steve didn't like his school so much, though she's not ruling it out if it comes to it. Spring break is coming up. They're going to have a getaway. Small trip out of town. We're within road trip distance of a lot of great places to take kids for vacations. She's looking forward to a change of scenery and some relaxing. 11th update. Quick update on Sam, aka Liar Liar Pants on Fire. It's been almost 2 weeks since I talked to her. I bumped into her this morning. I asked about the custody hearing. She said, "Girl, her attorney dropped her for lying. I'll call you later." And then she ran after one of the girls. So, it sounds like the visitation suit is dead on arrival. That's all I got though. 12th update. Found out about Sam, aka Liar Liar Pants on Fire. Part 2, but French. And misspelled. Also, it's a bit long. So, last thing I heard from Sam was, "Girl, it's been dropped. I'll call ya." Sam has some family from out of town right now. They were going to stay with her parents until they heard about the crazy, and when they wouldn't agree to go over there and get videos of the kids for Sam's parents, they were told they couldn't stay there. So they're at Sam's for their spring break. But they got all kinds of dirt. So the idiots couldn't find an attorney anywhere to take their custody/visitation case. According to the family member, I'll call them Bob in this post, anytime they'd say, "We have a restraining order against us," they'd basically laugh them out of the office. The idiots apparently find this to be unacceptable and even filled out some online reviews against the practices online. Most are rambling rants about Sam and how no attorney will help them, or that practice was rude and wouldn't do what they were hired to do, blah blah. Typical, we didn't get what we wanted, so now we're going to complain. So, after the 4th or 5th attorney, they decided they'd just not tell the attorney about the restraining order. Enter new attorney. They feed him some bullshit about how Sam's family was living with them because they couldn't afford their home. They helped raise the kids because Sam and her husband were constantly trying to pay bills, and the kids weren't being put to bed on time, being fed. Typical, we're the caregiver shit. Bob said that the idiots seemed to actually believe the parts about raising the kids. Bob says they told him, "Well, we didn't live with them, but we raised those girls. It doesn't matter if we lived there or not." The thing is though, aside from the mall incident, they weren't allowed around any of the kids without Sam or her husband there to make sure they weren't just cramming junk food down their throats and letting them go Lord of the Flies while under their supervision. So they managed to convince this attorney that the situation is an emergency and to file the paperwork before all their evidence was brought to his office. I guess they figured that once it was filed, the attorney couldn't back out. Sam gets the letter and calls her attorney. They didn't send him a copy. Sam assumes the idiots didn't want him telling their attorney about the restraining order, so they had the paperwork go directly to Sam. Sam's attorney gets the paperwork and calls up idiot's attorney and lets them in on the whole deal. He/she is rightfully pissed off because they would have never agreed to take the case, but since they have fine print in their retainer contracts about lying/omitting info about the case, they're basically getting some free money. Now, the attorney has to drop the case. They're not going to represent them, so they back out. Papers are already filed, so the case either has to be dropped or a new attorney has to be found. Idiots flip out on attorney about their money. They just remind them that they lied and have forfeited it. Idiots decide to go ahead with the filing and tell the judge they're getting a new attorney. Sam's attorney then tells the judge why their attorney backed out. Shows the judge all the paperwork from the restraining order in the mall incident. Shows them all the emails from Sam and her parents about how they were staying with Sam for just a couple weeks. Not living there. Basically spends 10 minutes telling the judge that idiots are just fucking crazy. Family court judge sees that this is all nonsense and lays it out. Tells idiots that they're abusing the system and that if they file such a case again, that they'll charge them with contempt and make sure that they're investigated and charged for vexatious litigation, which means filing cases to harass Sam. Basically, gets pissed that their courtroom is being used to mess with Sam and tells them to leave her alone. Sam's attorney calls Sam, tells her it's dropped, the end. Bob says that he thinks the idiots have learned their lesson as far as legal proceedings go, but says they're still convinced that they should have access to the kids they raised. They apparently said that a lot. They raised the kids. All three are under the age of 7. He told Sam that if it were him, he'd be putting in a security system in the home. They already have one, but it isn't monitored. So they're going to have a company come out and set up monitoring. They're also going to upgrade the cheap webcams they set up at the front door. They're not sure if now that their legal options are done, if they'll still obey the RO. Bob also said that they're in danger of losing their house, or at least that's what the idiot said. Something like, "We spent all our money on fighting for the kids, that now we might be homeless." Bob wasn't sure if it was legit or just drama. Sam's husband went and got his concealed carry permit. They're shopping around for a gun-safe and firearm to keep in the house, just in case. Not just because of the idiots. I guess her husband has been wanting to do it for a while and used this as his last tick in the pro column on the pros and cons of having a weapon in the house. I recommended the safe we have. It can mount to a nightstand or bed even, has a 6-digit code, allows 1 digit to be 2 numbers at once, and has a safety feature that if someone tries the wrong code, a red light stays on until it's properly opened. So, you know if a kid has been playing with it. After 3 bad codes, it locks, and you have to have a key. Sam said that since the smackdown by the judge, there's been nothing, which was what was happening before the papers came, so she's not sure if it's over or if they're just regrouping for some other bullshit. They're still not allowed on school property, and Steve has been told that if he sees the idiots or his uncle to run to the nearest stranger and tell them that they're trying to take him. The girls are still too young to really do much to prep them, but they're not really out of Sam's sight much. In positive news, her husband just got a promotion at work. She's really excited. It means some extra money, and that they'll be able to take a trip where we're not in the car with 3 kids for hours this summer. Update 13th. A non-update on Sam, aka all's quiet on the Western Front. School ends on Tuesday. We've been doing all the fun end-of-year stuff like carnivals and field day. Sam says she hasn't heard a peep from anyone. I guess that when her parents were caught in the lies with the attorney, they decided the jig was up. Or at least she's hoping that's what happened. She said that they've made arrangements for the kids to have summer camp/activities pretty much the whole summer, so that they're being supervised out of the home, just in case the grand idiots decide to try something then. For now, though, they're enjoying the peace. Update 14. And now for another thing to change when you change locks, aka alarms, and cops at Sam's house. Came home from our neighborhood pool on Memorial Day to see cops at Sam's house. Well, I hate to freak anyone out, but if you have a just no mother-in-law and just no father-in-law that have stayed with you and had a garage door, make sure you change the code. Simple to do, it's at the back of the actual opener above the car, a bunch of switches to change. So, all's been radio silent with Sam's parents since their former attorney dropped them and the judge read them the riot act in court. Until Monday, Sam and her family were out running around and they got a call from their alarm company that the house alarm was going off in their kitchen and that someone had tried to enter the wrong code 3 times. So, she told them to send the cops and that she and her husband were on their way to meet them. No one was there when they got there. In fact, aside from the alarm going off, there was no sign of why it went off. Sam pulled up her camera footage from the front of the house to see her parents pull into the drive. They just used a garage door opener to let themselves in. When they entered, they set off the alarm. They tried to put in the old code that was changed months ago. By the way, I recommended that she have the old code changed to the panic code. If you enter the panic code, the company silences the alarm and calls the police immediately, as it is assumed you're in danger and have someone forcing you to put in a code. When they couldn't get the code right, they just got into their car and left, closed the garage on the way out. They didn't take anything, Sam filed a report, but since they didn't take, leave, damage, or otherwise do anything, probably little will come of it. She is going to press any charges applicable though, and they did change the codes in the doors the same day. Her husband and her dad had installed the opener when they moved in, so she thinks that her dad must have programmed an opener back then. Who knows if it was something they forgot about and then remembered, or if they were just biding their time. She asked the cops to get the opener, but they told her that it would be hard to prove they still had it, so they told her to change the codes and took a copy of the video. Through the grapevine, she's heard that her mother is telling people they forgot they weren't staying there and accidentally went home to her house and didn't think about it until the alarm went off and they couldn't turn it off. 15th update. Play it again, Sam. Due to them having a key at the garage door opener and there not being any damage done or obvious malicious intent, the grand idiots weren't charged with breaking and entering. They weren't home, so technically they didn't violate the restraining order. However, they were trespassing. The judge said because it was known to them they weren't allowed on the property, even if they didn't take back the opener, they're getting off with a fee and a diversion program. They stay out of trouble, they don't have to face serious consequences. If they fuck up again, they can be jailed for as much as a year, but probably closer to a few months. This is a one-time only thing, and honestly, I was surprised they were eligible to begin with since they've shown they're nuttier than a fruitcake. Radio silence has been re-established. Sam says they haven't heard a word from them or her brother. A friend of her mom sent her a nasty email about having her mother arrested like a criminal, and Sam said she just replied, "She is a criminal," and then blocked her. They changed their garage code and made the alarm panic code the same as the old code, but since they were busted this time, it's doubtful they'll try it again. Sam says they never got a real answer about why they were there. She was told they told police they were there for a well check on the kids, told friends that they were going to talk to her, told some other people that they were invited and it was a setup, told others that it was all a misunderstanding, and that the mom went to the house as a mistake and didn't realize it until the code wouldn't work. Basically, they're lying to anyone that will listen and can't even stick to one lie. A member of the Grand Idiots Church came over carrying some kind of baked good. Sam wasn't home, her husband used less than godly language and told her to mind her own business, not to show up there again, and to spread the word at the church. He didn't even let her on the front steps. Sam said that her husband is seriously thinking about taking an ad out on their church newsletter, laying out the truth, but she doesn't think they'd print it anyway. 16th update. Update on Sam. All semi-quiet on the Western Front, and a little satisfaction. School starts in about a week. We just finished the registration day and kids are ready. This year, the kids are back in the same classes again, smiley face. And since we live in the same neighborhood, we put each other down as the if all else fails, call person at school. That way, if they can't get through to the 3 family members on our list, they might be able to get me or her. Parental front had been fairly quiet. Sam says that for now, the grand idiots have left them alone. She thinks that they're afraid they'll be arrested/do time, and the scandal of it would just kill her mother from the embarrassment. So they're staying low. They did get a couple emails from distant family. She said she got an email from a woman that she had never met, telling her that they were related and she should be ashamed of herself for having Auntie Idiot arrested like some hood rat. They've just been saving messages for the attorney and then blocking them. But so far, nothing truly bad. Remember the church lady that her husband sent packing? Well, the church lady didn't make any headway, so the actual fucking pastor showed up. Though in his defense, he called and spoke to them first. He called Sam and told her that he was sure there were 2 sides to every story, and that he was trying to counsel her mother in her time of need, but felt there was more he needed to know. He had asked Grand Idiot's permission to call, and since she took that as, "I'm on your side and I'll make her see you," she agreed. So, Sam and her husband have the man over one day while the kids were out. They tell him that if at any time the Grand Idiots show up or he starts pushing them on them, he'll be asked to leave. Pastor tells them that Grand Idiots have claimed the following. I'm going to put her response after each one because she took him on a tour of her house after the talk. Sam and her husband are either drunks or druggies. Because of this, they're pushing her parents away because they know that the Grand Idiots don't agree with that lifestyle, but they're very good at keeping up appearances. To this statement, Sam said she showed him their liquor cabinet with a whopping 2 bottles of old wine and a bottle of rum. She said she couldn't prove they didn't use drugs, but she wasn't looking for validation or approval, as much as wanted him to see with his own eyes that they're full of shit. Grand idiots told Pastor that the kids aren't cared for. They're dirty. They have no clean clothes. They aren't fed. You know the drill. To this, Sam showed him their bedrooms, which were kid messy but not dirty, and had a closet full of clean clothes. Also saw the fully stacked diaper table, and the way her house is set up, you can see her stock pantry, complete with home canned items. Apparently, her husband is supposed to be unemployed and they're about to lose their house. She didn't dignify that statement with anything but laughter. That just sounds like projection. She and husband have some kind of personality disorder that basically makes them sociopaths that shouldn't be raising kids, and they're only doing this to get some giggles out of the grand idiot's pain. Sam laughed at that, then pulled out her folder of shit they've done and showed it to him, complete with court orders and police reports. Sam and her husband then told the pastor about the shit the grand idiots have said and done. They told him about the hot car incident, which the grand idiots conveniently told the church a complete lie about. According to her, they never left the kids in the car, that Sam had called the cops and reported it out of spite, and that Sam refused to allow them to have the car seats and told them it was okay to let them ride in the car without them. The sneaking around to see the kids was apparently justifiable because it's cruel to keep them apart. Pastor apparently went a little flying monkey about it, trying to reunite them, but Sam told them about how they threatened her, and he backed off. The breaking into Sam's house was a setup just to make them look bad. Apparently, this feeds into the sociopath problem. Basically, grand idiots are some kind of super breed of idiot, because you'd think that they'd realize that if the pastor and Sam talked, he'd get the whole story and find out how much lying they've been doing. Pastor basically agreed with Sam and husband about their course of action. He told them that while he's grand idiot's pastor, he was willing to help Sam out if she needed anything. Her husband said all he wanted was that Pastor make sure everyone knew not to show up at their house. Pastor had no clue church lady had shown up there. He said he couldn't force anyone to do anything, but he'd make sure word got around to stay out of it. Pastor did request a photo of the kids because grand idiots had asked for one. Sam's husband told him no way in hell. Pastor just agreed and dropped it. Kids came home right as Pastor was leaving, so he saw with his own eyes that they're being cared for and are healthy. He told Sam that he thought her parents needed a lot of counseling and therapy and that he was going to recommend they see a professional. He asked if she were willing to see someone with them. Sam said no. Pastor offered her a referral for herself if she decided she wanted to go on her own. He was going to try his best to do what he could to help her parents and told her that if she ever needed to talk, to give him a call. Sounds like the grand idiots may have just lost a pretty big support in their lives. Even if the pastor holds everything confidential, I know churches. It will get around eventually, at least part of it. 17th update. School started. Sam and I now have folders of authority, aka no news is good news. School started, and awesome news. I'm the grade mom, and Sam is a room mom. We were given our folders with all of the year's activities info. We have authority! No word from any of the grand idiots, no word from church ladies, no word from FM. Sam says that all is quiet on her end. She did make sure that the office is aware that they're still not allowed to pick up the kids. So, here's to a quiet year, smiley face. 18th update. Update on Sam, aka all's quiet on the Western Front. I've had a few messages and a couple of comment calls. My mother-in-law passed last week, so I missed my kid's Valentine's party, but I did get to see Sam Friday for coffee. Happily for her, and sadly for our llamas, everything has been fine. She said that her parents haven't tried to make contact. She's worried, though, that the year diversion is coming up in 5-ish months, so she's not sure if they're holding off until the time is up or if they've really learned their lesson. The pastor was true to his word. He hasn't tried to contact them, and no church ladies have showed up at the door. Sam says that she's heard through family that there were some problem at church, but that's all she got. Sam says she assumes it got around, but according to the people she knows, her parents are still attending the same church, so blowback must not have been that bad. No hits on changing the old alarm code to the panic code, so they're confident no one has gotten into the house. Kids are fine, they've adjusted okay to not having them around. My kid says that on Grandparents' Day that Steve gets to bring his cousin. Apparently, this is very cool, as the cousin knows magic. LOL. Sounds like maybe she got off easy. She's keeping her fingers crossed that the calm continues. 19th update. Update on Sam, aka the chickens always come to roost. Okay, so first of all, Sam is fine. No contact is still going well. They have about 3.5 more months on the restraining order, but no problems in sight. Sam says they're making a plan in case they decide to wreak havoc over the summer, but so far so good. But Sam found out what happened at church. So if you remember, grandidiots cried and carried on to their pastor. So he called Sam to arrange a meeting to try and unify/counsel them. Sam agreed to meet with Pastor. It went well. Pastor got a look at the whole picture and promised he'd do what he could to help her parents while not encouraging them to reunify. Basically, he found out they were cray-cray and agreed that Sam was doing the right thing. Well, the church lady that showed up before the pastor went back to the church, and church lady, being who she is, told everyone that would listen about the evil son-in-law that grandidiots have, and how all she was doing was trying to help, and he cussed her out. So word got around. All of this part Sam found out from someone she knows from the church. I guess their kids are in a club together or something, but this woman knew all of this was a crock of shit. Church lady spreads the word about showing up at Sam's house and being run off by her husband. This, of course, goes through the gossip lines, and you know how telephone gets. By the time Sam's friend heard about it, her husband had turned the hose on the poor little parishioner. LOL. This prompted the pastor to make a statement to the church about how even good intentions can be bad if not wanted or needed, and how church was meant for God, and not meant as a mob force to bend a will. I guess he didn't mention Sam specifically, but he did mention the grandidiots and how if people wanted to help, they shouldn't be harassing anyone. Grandidiots have since made a big show of every Sunday asking for prayers for my family, especially our daughter who is not in a good relationship and needs support even if she doesn't want it. Pastor would try to deflect from allowing it to become a scene, and her friend said he looked uncomfortable about it. According to her, he did have a couple of sermons about how honoring your parents didn't mean allow them to bulldoze you. But grandidiots apparently didn't take the hint. Friend says that pastor is counseling grandidiots. She says it's well known that grandidiots have been having a lot of sessions with him. Shit went down. Apparently, someone talked. She didn't know where it started, but the general thought is that one of the church ladies that helps out with office stuff overheard what's going on, and word got out. Church is now 70-30 against grandidiots. A few weeks back, grandidiots did their prayer for our daughter routine, and then another church member followed up with, I'd like a prayer request for our church family. Some of us are struggling in our personal lives and with truth. No one mentioned names, but it was one of those you know who they were talking about. According to Sam's friend, grandidiots have gone church turbo to save face. Every church function, they're there. Every food drive, church dinner, they're right in the middle of it, putting on a show about how we don't see our grandkids, so this is how we spend our time. Most of the parishioners are getting tired of their shit. A few of the older crowd and the ones that grandidiots have fooled are still supporting them and spreading shit, but the vast majority know that they're full of shit. I don't know how much they know about the pastor meeting, but some know that it did happen, and that pastor determined that grandidiots are full of shit. Sam says that she doesn't see any situation short of the pastor calling them out on their lies in front of everyone where they will leave that church. She thinks that pastor would have to ask them to leave before that would happen, and she didn't think he'd do that unless he felt they were a danger to the church. She thinks it's hilarious that her mother, who has always been one of those churchwomen who centers her entire social life around church, is being outed to them all. Update 20. Oh my god. Sam is back. Back again! Sam is back. Tell a friend, aka Cray Cray is still Cray Cray. I'm guessing they probably wanted me to do it to the Eminem song, Shady's Back, but you get that version instead. So, first of all, Sam and her brood are great. She's had a great summer, no drama, and it appears that the grand idiots have either learned their lesson, decided it was too much to deal with, or are just really long game players. The restraining order still has a few weeks left. I think she said it's set to expire a week or so after school starts. Apparently, Grand Idiot's crazy is starting to leach into the brother's life too. Sam said that her brother has started calling and they've been talking. He was living with them after Sam kicked him out, but moved out not long before school let out in May. He finished up his degree, and all hell broke loose. Seems that a 20-something college grad doesn't want to live with his parents forever, especially when they have a girlfriend. Brother decided that after graduation, he was going to move to another town within a 30 to 20-minute drive. That is not how that's written. I don't know why I said it backwards, but we're going to roll with it. With his girlfriend. He got a job in his field of study. She finishes her schooling up this year, and they decided to settle down since he has a legit job lined up. This didn't sit well with the Grand Idiots, mostly Grand Idiot Ma. Sam's brother said that ever since he got the job offer, Grand Idiot Ma decided it was her mission to break up the relationship and to try and prevent him from having the job/moving. At first, she was okay with it because she thought that he was just going to commute. But once he announced they had a place lined up, she cracked. She tried calling the new job and telling them that her own fucking son was mentally, oh boy, this is in fact from the 2016 era, mentally and couldn't do the job. Damn, that static is doing so much heavy lifting. To try and get them to cancel the job offer. The person she talked with immediately called up brother and had a chat. They're still going to hire him, but told him that he had a choice. Either he kept his mother's crazy away from the business, or he had no job. When brother confronted Grand Idiot Ma about it, she denied it. He did the smart thing and told his mother that the job offer got thrown out. So now he has no job. But followed up with an idiot thing and told her he was still moving. Once Grand Idiot Ma realized that not having a job wasn't going to keep him from leaving, she set her sights on the girlfriend. She started sending nasty emails and texts. Girlfriend's tires were mysteriously slashed the night after a really bad phone call where Grand Idiot Ma threatened to do what I have to keep her away from her son. No one has any proof that she did it, but everyone knows she did. The girlfriend and brother continued apartment shopping, and a few times had a good lead set up, only for the apartment complex to call later and tell them the place had been rented or that they didn't meet criteria. They couldn't figure out why. Well, brother was washing his car and found a little black box duct taped under his wheel well. Turns out Grand Idiot Ma was tracking his car. When it would stop somewhere, she'd look up where and then call complexes and told them he was a bad renter, a drug addict, whatever, to get them to not lease to him. Brother confronted her about it and she denied it. But brother was able to look through her phone and see the number she called and verified that the numbers matched to the offices of the apartments. Brother ended up packing everything up and staying with Sam for about a week. He used Sam's car to go apartment hunting, and they found a place with gated security. Living with his parents helped him save up some cash, and he's going to use some of it to get a new car and give his back to his parents. Grand Idiot Ma still thinks he has no job and is convinced he'll have to move back home because the girlfriend won't pay your bills forever. He's not even correcting her. I'll give him this. He's a sneaky fucker. He set up a P.O. box in a different town. He's told her that the apartment complex uses them. He won't tell her where he's living, but because the P.O. box is a different town, she thinks he lives there. So even if she's able to track down the location of the P.O. box, she'll be in the wrong town. He doesn't think this will stop her forever, but maybe long enough that his girlfriend can finish up school and then they can move, hopefully into a house in her home state. Brother told Sam that the Grand Idiots are still brewing about Sam and the kids. He thinks that as soon as the restraining orders expires, they're going to show up on Sam's doorstep. And that is where it ends. I can only assume that because of the fact that there has been no more updates, that things have calmed down and things have hopefully been quiet. Either that or Sam moved and OP lost contact with Sam, or who knows. Either way, it's fitting that the saga ends with the brother finally seeing what Sam had been dealing with and realizing, oh, wow, Mom is actually fucking crazy. It's a fucking shame, though, that he didn't realize that when his nieces and nephews were put into a fucking hot car and, he didn't quite see the problem with that and it was just an overreaction, but hopefully now he understands. I'm reminded of that ClickHole video. I stood in a hot car for 3 hours to prove that babies and dogs are cowards. It's obviously parody, and the dude ends the video drenched and just fucking exhausted as hell. But in case this is your first time hearing this, don't leave a dog or a child or anyone for that matter in a car alone with the AC off in summer when temperatures are above 80 degrees. Things can heat up quick. As long as the sun is out, it is not safe. Even in temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it can still greenhouse the car. Hyperthermia can sneak up on you real quick. Well, I mean, so can hypothermia, but, that's a different story. Either way, I have no idea how long this video is. I have been in this booth for hours. It is currently pretty late in the morning, well past upload time, and I still need to get part 20 edited. And, I am exhausted. So I hope you guys enjoyed this saga. I'm hoping that Saga Saturdays does well. If the Saga Saturdays title variation performs well, I'll start actually labeling them as Saga Saturdays permanently, and not just as an additional best of. And I'll actually try to hunt down sagas more commonly for a Saturday special. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this fiasco of a mess and this just massive post, please let me know. Gamer subs, use code Oz at checkout. Y'all have been using code Oz a ton, and it's every time I wake up, I am absolutely floored by just how much traction y'all are bringing my way. And I'm probably gonna replace my washer and dryer with the gamer subs money because, my washer started leaking, because of course it did. And I might actually be able to afford a new one. So, hey! You guys are fucking awesome. And also, of course, thank you to the members. Thank you to those who comment, who like, who subscribe, who turn notifications on. I would not be able to do this if it weren't for you guys. Everyone who supports the channel in big ways and small ways, y'all are wonderful. And please, have a wonderful Saturday, and take care.